The moment I saw the bruise, I knew this was no longer an interview. It was the beginning of something neither of us had planned. 48 hours earlier, my day had started like every other Tuesday. Manhattan stretched beneath the floor-to-ceiling windows of Cross Holdings, wrapped in a gray November sky. At 42 years old, I had built an empire by paying attention only to things that mattered. Numbers mattered. Loyalty mattered. Weakness did not. My assistant followed beside me, reading through the morning schedule, meetings, acquisitions, a charity board call. Then one final item, a hiring interview. I wasn't supposed to attend it. Human resources handled those. But a cancellation shifted the schedule, and somehow I ended up walking into conference room 7. The mistake seemed insignificant. The room smelled faintly of coffee and fresh paper. Sunlight reflected across the polished table. One woman sat waiting near the far end, blonde hair pulled back, navy cardigan. No expensive jewelry, no designer handbag, just someone trying very hard not to be noticed. She looked up when I entered. Surprise crossed her face, then nervousness replaced it. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Am I in the right room?" Her voice carried the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept properly in months. I glanced at the folder on the table. Emily Carter, 34, administrative applicant, single mother, Queen's address. Nothing unusual. "I was about to ask you the same thing," I replied. A faint smile appeared before quickly fading. Most people became uncomfortable around me. Emily simply looked tired. I took the seat across from her. Outside the glass walls, employees hurried through the hallway. Inside, silence settled between us. She kept pulling the sleeve of her cardigan lower. Once, twice, then again. At first, I barely noticed. Then it became impossible to ignore. "You have experience managing schedules?" I asked. "Yes, sir," she answered. "Almost 6 years." Her fingers tightened around a worn leather portfolio. Every answer was polite. Careful. Professional. Yet something felt wrong. It wasn't her resume. It wasn't her qualifications. It was the way her eyes drifted toward the door every few minutes. The way her shoulders stiffened whenever footsteps passed outside. The way she seemed relieved each time her phone remained silent. Then the phone vibrated. Just once. A single buzz against the tabletop. Emily froze. The color drained from her face. She grabbed the phone immediately and turned it over before I could see the screen. Her hand trembled, only slightly, but enough. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time that morning, I stopped thinking about the interview, because something about Emily Carter told me she wasn't worried about getting the job. She was worried about something else entirely. Something waiting beyond those office walls. Something she was trying desperately to hide. She lowered her gaze and adjusted her sleeve one more time. And in that moment, I had the strange feeling that fate had made a mistake neither of us would ever be able to undo. Emily slipped her phone into her purse so quickly that most people would have missed it. I did not. Nothing in my world survived because I missed details. Details built companies. Details exposed lies. Details kept people alive. The interview continued, but my attention had shifted. Outside. The city moved beneath a gray November sky. Inside. Emily Carter sat across from me trying to appear calm. She was failing. Not dramatically. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But I noticed every small thing. The tension in her jaw. The way her fingers gripped the edge of her portfolio. The way she glanced toward the door whenever footsteps echoed in the hallway. "Tell me about your previous position," I said. She cleared her throat. I worked for a property management company in Queens, scheduling, records management, and client communication. Her answer was professional, careful, practiced, yet there was no excitement behind it, only determination, the kind people carried when they could not afford failure. I reviewed her resume again. Steady employment, strong references, no significant gaps. On paper, she was exactly the type of candidate we hired every day. So why did it feel like she was carrying something far heavier than a job application? You mentioned being a single mother. Her expression softened immediately. Yes, sir. How old is your child? A small smile appeared, genuine this time. My son is 8. His name is Noah. The difference was instant. The anxious woman disappeared for a moment. In her place was a proud mother. Then her phone vibrated again. The smile vanished. Her shoulders tightened. She did not even look at the screen. She simply stared at the table as if willing the phone to stop. Everything all right? I asked. Emily looked up quickly. Yes, sir. Everything is fine. It was not fine. The answer came too fast, too rehearsed. I let the silence settle between us. Most people rushed to fill silence. Emily did not. She lowered her eyes and waited. Through the glass wall, employees moved through the office carrying coffee cups and laptops. Normal lives, normal concerns. Yet the woman sitting across from me looked like she had not experienced normal in a very long time. 10 minutes later, the interview ended. I closed the folder and stood. Thank you for your time, Ms. Carter. Relief crossed her face. Not disappointment, relief, as though simply reaching the end of the interview mattered more than the result. She stood as well. Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Cross. We shook hands. Her grip was light and cold. Then her portfolio slipped from beneath her arm. Papers scattered across the floor. A family photograph slid toward my shoe. I picked it up before she could reach it. A young boy smiled beside her near a baseball field. Noah. Happy. Safe, at least in that picture. Emily accepted the photo with a quiet thank you. For a second our eyes met. I saw exhaustion, fear, but also resilience, the kind that refused to break. She turned toward the door, then her phone lit up again. This time I caught a glimpse of the screen. No name, just a number. And the look on her face told me everything. Whoever kept calling was the reason she had been afraid all afternoon. And for the first time, I found myself wanting answers. I should have forgotten about her the moment she walked out of the room. That was how my life worked. Meetings ended, decisions were made, people came and went. But 40 minutes after Emily Carter left Cross Holdings, I was still thinking about the look on her face when that phone lit up. I stood beside the window in my office, watching the late afternoon traffic crawl through Midtown. Rain clouds had begun gathering over the skyline, turning the glass towers silver and gray. My assistant stepped inside carrying a folder. The board members are waiting downstairs. I nodded without looking away from the city. Reschedule. Silence followed. In 10 years, I had never postponed a board meeting. Sir, reschedule it. She left without another question. I returned to my desk and opened Emily's application again. One page, simple, ordinary. Yet nothing about her felt ordinary anymore. The phone number listed under emergency contact belonged to her sister in Brooklyn. Her references checked out. Her employment history was clean. There was no obvious reason for the fear I had seen in her eyes. My office phone rang. I ignored it. Then my cell phone vibrated. A message from my head of security. Everything ready for tonight's event. I stared at the screen before typing a different instruction. Run a background check on Emily Carter. Full report. The reply arrived less than 30 seconds later. Understood. I leaned back in my chair. Maybe I should have left it alone. Maybe I should have focused on business. Instead, I found myself remembering small details. The way her voice changed when she talked about Noah. The way relief crossed her face when the interview ended. The way she seemed to brace herself every time her phone vibrated. 3 hours later, the report arrived. I opened it immediately. The information confirmed everything I already knew. No criminal record, no financial fraud, no lawsuits, nothing unusual. Then I reached the final page. Recent address history. My eyes narrowed. Emily had moved 3 times in 18 months. 3 apartments, 3 different neighborhoods, all within the same borough. Most people did not relocate that often unless they were running from something or someone. I picked up the phone. "Marcus," my security chief answered on the first ring. "Yes, sir. I want more. More. Find out why she moved 3 times." A pause. "Understood. Chatouille." Evening settled over Manhattan. The city lights flickered alive one by one. Rain tapped softly against the windows. I should have gone home. Instead, I remained in my office reviewing contracts I could not focus on. Around 7 o'clock, Marcus called back. His voice sounded different, more cautious. "Sir, there is something you should see." "What is it?" Silence stretched across the line. "The last apartment manager remembers her." I stood slowly. "And?" He said she always seemed frightened, always checking the parking lot before taking her son inside. A cold feeling settled in my chest. "Anything else?" Another pause. "Yes, sir." He said the day she moved out, she was wearing long sleeves in 90-degree weather, and she looked like she had been crying. I stared at the rain sliding down the glass. For the first time, this no longer felt like curiosity. It felt like a warning. And somewhere across the city, Emily Carter was carrying a secret that was much bigger than I had imagined. The next morning, I arrived at the office before sunrise. Manhattan was still waking up. Steam drifted from street grates. Delivery trucks rolled through empty avenues. The city felt quieter than usual, as if it were holding its breath. A fresh cup of coffee sat untouched on my desk, while I reviewed reports I could not remember reading. My attention kept returning to the same question. What was Emily Carter afraid of at 8:15? Marcus entered my office carrying a thin folder. He placed it on my desk without speaking. That alone told me the contents mattered. Marcus was not easily concerned. I opened the folder. Inside were notes from additional interviews with former landlords, neighbors, and property managers. None of them described Emily as difficult. None of them reported unpaid rent. Every comment sounded nearly identical. Quiet, respectful, protective of her son. Then one statement caught my attention. A former neighbor remembered hearing arguments through the wall late at night. Not shouting, not chaos, just enough tension to make people uncomfortable. Another neighbor recalled seeing Emily leave for work early every morning while Noah waited beside her, holding a backpack, almost as large as he was. The same neighbor described the boy as polite and unusually mature for his age. Children grew up quickly when life forced them to. I knew that better than most people. "Anything else?" I asked. Marcus nodded. "There is a man." I looked up. "What man?" "His name is Ryan Mercer, 40 years old, works intermittently in construction, no criminal record, no active warrants. He has been connected to Emily's address history for nearly 2 years." I felt a knot tighten somewhere deep in my chest. Connected how witness statements place him at multiple residences. Several neighbors assumed they were living together. I stared at the page. Ryan Mercer. The name meant nothing, yet instinct told me otherwise. Keep digging. Marcus hesitated. Sir, this is becoming personal. He was right. It was. The strange part was that I could not explain why. Emily Carter was a job applicant. Nothing more. Yet every new detail made me feel less like I was investigating a stranger and more like I was uncovering a problem nobody else wanted to see. After Marcus left, I walked to the window. Rain had returned, streaking the glass in silver lines. Far below, people hurried beneath umbrellas, chasing schedules and responsibilities. Somewhere among them was Emily. Maybe heading to another interview, maybe picking up Noah from school, maybe pretending everything was normal. My phone buzzed. An incoming message from Human Resources. Subject candidate selection. I opened it. Emily Carter had scored near the top of every evaluation category. Qualified, reliable, recommended for final consideration. I read the message twice. Then I pressed a button and called downstairs. Schedule a second interview. For which candidate, sir? The director asked. My eyes settled on the rain beyond the glass. Emily Carter. There was a brief pause. Understood. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my pocket. For the first time in days, I had a reason to see her again. But deep down, I knew the interview was no longer the reason I wanted her to return. I wanted to look into her eyes one more time and find out what secret she was carrying before that secret destroyed the life she was trying so hard to protect. 3 days later, rain fell steadily across Queens. The kind of cold spring rain that painted storefront windows with silver streaks and turned every streetlight into a blurry halo. Emily pulled her coat tighter as she stepped out of a grocery store carrying 2 paper bags. One held food, the other held school supplies Noah needed for a science project. She moved quickly through the parking lot, head lowered against the weather. Inside the black SUV parked across the street, Marcus watched from a distance. His instructions were simple. Observe, nothing more. I had told myself the same thing. Yet I found myself checking my phone every 20 minutes for updates. The second interview was scheduled for Friday morning. Until then, I wanted to know whether my instincts were wrong. They were not. Marcus sent a photo. Emily crossing the parking lot. Alone. Another arrived minutes later. Emily helping an elderly woman load groceries into her trunk despite the rain. Then another. Emily standing beneath a bus stop shelter beside Noah. The boy was laughing about something. Emily smiled back. For the first time, she looked almost carefree. Almost. I stared at the image longer than I should have. Sir, my assistant stood in the doorway. The investors are waiting. I set the phone down. Give me 5 minutes. She left without argument. My attention returned to the photograph. Most people revealed who they truly were when nobody important was watching. Emily had no idea anyone was paying attention. Yet every report described the same person. Kind, responsible, protective, tired. That evening, another message arrived from Marcus. This one contained no photograph, only a short sentence. We may have a problem. I called immediately. What happened? Rain crackled through the phone line. Emily just left a diner near Roosevelt Avenue, and a man was waiting outside. I stood from my desk. Ryan Mercer. Yes. My jaw tightened. What did he do? Nothing criminal. Nothing physical. He approached her. They spoke for less than 2 minutes. How did she react? Marcus paused, like someone trying very hard to stay calm. I walked toward the window overlooking the city. Darkness had settled over Manhattan. Thousands of lights stretched toward the horizon. Where is she now? Heading home with Noah. I exhaled slowly. Keep watching. Understood. The call ended. For several moments I remained motionless, Something about the situation bothered me. If Ryan was harmless, why had Emily moved 3 times? Why did she react to every phone call like bad news was waiting on the other end? Why did every witness describe fear without ever explaining its source? My phone vibrated again. Another message from Marcus. This time it included a photograph taken moments earlier. Emily and Noah standing outside a small apartment building. Noah carried his backpack while Emily searched for her keys. The image should have looked ordinary. Instead, one detail caught my attention immediately. Before unlocking the door, Emily glanced over her shoulder. Then she checked the street, then the parking lot, then the sidewalk again. Not once. 3 separate times, like someone who never truly felt safe. And for the first time, I stopped wondering whether she needed help. The real question was whether help would reach her before whatever she feared finally caught up to her. Friday arrived beneath clear skies and unusually warm temperatures for early spring. By 8:30 in the morning, Cross Holdings was already alive with movement. Elevators opened and closed, phones rang, coffee machines hissed in break rooms. Yet my attention remained fixed on a single appointment scheduled for 9 o'clock. Emily Carter. I told myself it was business, nothing more. The lie sounded weaker every time I repeated it. At exactly 8:58, my assistant appeared at the office door. "Ms. Carter is here." I looked up from the document I had not actually been reading. "Send her in." Moments later, Emily stepped into the room. She wore the same navy cardigan from the first interview. Her hair was neatly pulled back. She looked professional, prepared, and exhausted. The dark circles beneath her eyes were impossible to miss. "Good morning, Mr. Cross." "Good morning. Emily, please sit." She settled into the chair across from my desk and folded her hands together. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Sunlight streamed through the windows behind me, casting long reflections across the polished floor. The city stretched endlessly beyond the glass. Usually people were distracted by the view. Emily never looked at it once. "How has your week been?" I asked. It was not a standard interview question. She seemed surprised by it. "Busy." A small smile appeared. "My son's science project is due today." "Did he finish it?" That smile grew slightly. At 2 in the morning. I found myself smiling back. Sounds familiar. For the first time, some of the tension left her shoulders. Then her phone vibrated inside her purse. The change was immediate. Her smile vanished. Her posture stiffened. The same reaction, every single time. She did not answer it. She did not even check the screen, but I could see the effect it had on her. "Emily." Her eyes lifted toward mine. "You know this interview is already a formality, right?" Confusion crossed her face. "I do. Your qualifications speak for themselves." She blinked. For a moment, genuine hope appeared in her expression. It made her look years younger. Then something unexpected happened. Her purse slipped from her lap. As she reached for it, the sleeve of her cardigan pulled back several inches. Neither of us moved. Time seemed to slow. I saw her freeze the exact moment she realized what had happened. A faint discoloration marked part of her forearm. Not dramatic, not recent, but enough to explain why she had spent days hiding beneath long sleeves. Emily pulled the fabric down immediately. Too late. The room became silent. Outside the windows, Manhattan continued moving. Inside, everything stopped. She stared at the floor. I stared at her. No accusation, no judgment, just understanding. Emily's voice came out barely above a whisper. "I should go." She stood too quickly and reached for her purse. Fear flashed across her face. Not fear of me, Fear of being seen, really seen. And in that moment, I finally understood something important. Emily Carter was not hiding because she was weak. She was hiding because she had been carrying her burden alone for far too long. Emily's hand tightened around her purse. For a moment, I thought she might leave without another word. Most people would have. Shame often convinces good people that disappearing is easier than explaining. But she stayed where she was, standing beside the chair with her eyes fixed on the floor. The sunlight filling the office suddenly felt too bright, too revealing. "Emily," I said quietly. She swallowed but did not look up. "You do not have to explain anything." A faint laugh escaped her, not because she found anything funny, because she was tired. The kind of tired that settles deep in a person's soul. "That is the problem," she said softly. "I have spent 2 years explaining things." Her honesty caught me off guard. For the first time, there was no professional mask, no carefully prepared answers, only truth. She finally looked at me. People always ask questions. Friends, neighbors, landlords. Everyone wants answers until they hear them. The city moved beyond the windows. Traffic crawled through Manhattan. Sirens echoed somewhere in the distance. Life continued as if nothing had changed. Inside the office, everything felt different. "And what happens when they hear them?" I asked. Emily looked away. "They stop asking." Silence settled between us. Heavy, meaningful. She took a slow breath. "I am sorry." "For what?" "This interview." She glanced toward the door. "This is not professional." I leaned back slightly. "You are not the first person to bring real life into this building." The smallest smile touched her lips. It disappeared almost immediately. But I saw it. Then her phone rang. Not a vibration. An actual ringtone. Sharp and sudden. Emily flinched. She stared at the screen. Her face lost color. Without answering, she declined the call. 10 seconds later, it rang again. The same number. She declined it once more. I watched her carefully. "You do not have to answer that here." Her fingers tightened around the phone. For a moment, I thought she would say nothing. Then she whispered, "He never stops." The words landed harder than she realized. Suddenly, everything fit together. The moves, the fear, the constant need to watch every doorway. Emily closed her eyes briefly before collecting herself. When she opened them again, the protective wall had returned. "I should pick up Noah." Her voice sounded controlled now, practiced, like someone used to rebuilding herself. I stood as she moved toward the door. "The job is yours if you want it." Emily stopped immediately. Slowly, she turned back toward me. She stared as if she was not sure she had heard correctly. "Why?" The question revealed more than she intended. It revealed how little kindness she expected from the world. I met her gaze. "Because you earned it." For the first time since I met her, genuine emotion softened her expression. She nodded once. "Thank you." Then she left. The door closed quietly behind her. I remained standing beside my desk, staring at the empty chair where she had been sitting moments earlier. Something had changed. This was no longer curiosity. It was no longer concern. Somewhere in Queens, Emily Carter was carrying a burden she should never have been forced to carry alone. And as I looked out across the city, I realized something else. Whether I wanted it or not, I was already becoming part of her story. The following Monday was Emily's first day at Cross Holdings. The morning sunlight spilled across Manhattan like liquid gold, reflecting from thousands of windows as the city came alive. From my office on the 37th floor, I watched employees stream into the building carrying coffee cups, laptops, and unfinished conversations. Most mornings looked exactly the same. This one did not. At 8:27, my assistant appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Carter just arrived?" I glanced toward the security monitors mounted beside the conference screen. Emily stepped through the lobby carrying a modest leather bag. Her navy cardigan was gone, replaced by a simple gray blazer, professional, understated, determined. She paused briefly near the reception desk as one of the staff members handed her a visitor badge and directions. Even from the security feed, I noticed something familiar. Before entering the elevator, she glanced over her shoulder. Once. Twice. The habit remained. Fear does not disappear simply because circumstances improve. It lingers. It waits. It becomes part of a person's instincts. I turned away from the screen and returned to work. Or at least I tried to. By noon, I had signed 6 contracts and participated in 3 meetings. Yet my thoughts kept drifting elsewhere. Shortly after 1 o'clock, Marcus called. I spoke to someone who knows Ryan Mercer. My grip tightened around the phone. And the stories are consistent. His voice remained calm, professional. Controlling behavior, constant phone calls, frequent appearances where he was not invited. I stared through the office windows at the East River glimmering beneath the afternoon sun. Anything involving Noah. Silence followed. That silence told me enough. Marcus. Several people said Emily's biggest concern was always her son. A cold feeling settled in my chest. Everything came back to Noah. Every decision, every move, every sacrifice. "Keep digging," I said quietly. "I want facts, not rumors." "Understood." The call ended. 2 hours later, I stepped out of a meeting and headed toward the executive elevator. The hallway was nearly empty. Most employees were still working through the afternoon rush. Then I saw her. Emily stood near the break room, holding a coffee cup and speaking softly with another employee. For the first time since I met her, she looked almost relaxed. Almost. Then her phone rang. I watched the change happen instantly. Her smile disappeared. Her shoulders stiffened. The color faded from her face. The same reaction every single time. Emily glanced around before stepping into an empty corridor. Without thinking, I followed from a distance, not close enough to hear every word, close enough to see. She answered this time. For nearly a minute she listened without speaking. Then she finally said something. "Please stop calling." Her voice sounded tired, not angry, just exhausted. Another pause. "No, Ryan." More silence. "This is over?" She ended the call and lowered the phone. For several seconds she stood completely still, alone in the hallway, breathing slowly, gathering herself. Then she wiped at her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and walked back toward the office as though nothing had happened. I remained where I was. One thought echoed through my mind. Emily had spent 2 years trying to escape something, and judging by the look on her face, whatever she was escaping had no intention of letting her go. 2 months passed faster than I expected. Summer arrived in New York with bright mornings, crowded sidewalks, and the constant hum of air conditioners fighting the heat. Cross-holdings continued growing. Contracts were signed. Deals were closed. Entire companies changed hands. Yet the most important change in my life had happened quietly. It happened one conversation at a time. One shared coffee, one lunch break, one small moment of trust. Emily no longer looked over her shoulder every time she entered the building. The habit had not disappeared completely, but it no longer controlled her. She smiled more, laughed more, and every afternoon at exactly 4:30, she called Noah before leaving work. The first time I met him was by accident. Emily had stayed late preparing reports, and Noah was waiting in the lobby with a paperback book balanced on his knees. He looked exactly like the photograph from her portfolio. Bright eyes, polite manners, old soul. "You must be Noah," I said. He looked up carefully. "You are Mr. Cross." Not a question, a statement. I smiled. "I am." He considered that for a moment. "Mom says you gave her a chance." I glanced toward Emily, who immediately looked embarrassed. Noah continued reading as though he had not just said something that stayed with me for days. A chance. Such a simple phrase. Most people spend their lives searching for one. By August, Emily had become one of the most trusted employees in the company. More importantly, she had started believing in herself again. I could see it in the way she carried herself, the way she spoke during meetings, the way she stopped apologizing for taking up space. Then one Friday afternoon, she appeared at my office carrying a small envelope. "What is this?" I asked. "An invitation." She smiled. "To what? Noah's school science fair." I stared at the envelope. Billion-dollar negotiations never made me nervous. For some reason, that invitation did. Emily laughed softly. "You do not have to come. I will be there." Her smile widened. "Good." The science fair took place 3 weeks later in a crowded elementary school gymnasium in Queens. Parents filled folding chairs. Children's projects covered every table. Nothing about the evening was connected to my world, and yet it felt more important than most events on my calendar. Noah proudly explained his project while Emily stood beside him. For the first time since I met her, she looked completely at peace. No fear, no tension, no shadow behind her eyes. Just happiness, real happiness. As the evening ended, families slowly drifted toward the parking lot beneath a golden sunset. Emily stood beside me watching Noah run ahead with his ribbon clutched in one hand. "You know," she said quietly, "if I had not walked into the wrong interview that day, none of this would have happened." I looked toward the boy laughing in the distance, then back at her. Maybe it was never the wrong interview. Emily smiled, the kind of smile that reaches a person's eyes, the kind built from survival, hope, and second chances. And standing there beneath the fading summer sky, I realized something simple. Sometimes the biggest changes in life begin with a mistake, and sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never expected to meet.